excited about the series we have for the fall, and then we'll continue that into the spring. And as I said in our college meeting, if people are interested in presenting, please let me know. I am trying to balance representation across campuses and departments and trying to choose that way. Laura Girardeau is here. She is going to record this, so we will post this on the college website afterwards too. So if someone misses it or you want to tell someone about it, please do so and we can share that with them. Dr. Cho will present for about 25, 30 minutes, somewhere in there, and then we'll open up for just a conversation about the work and ask questions and have a conversation about what she's working on and how it connects to maybe other work that we're involved in. So I'll introduce her. Yunru, or Dr. I should say Dr. Hsaio, is an associate professor in the special education area in the Department of Teaching and Learning on the Tri-Cities campus. Happy to have her here today. Her research interests include families of students with disabilities, evidence-based instructional strategies for students with autism spectrum disorders, inclusive practices in general education classrooms, and culturally responsive teaching preparation and practices in special ed. She's been at WSU since 2013, and today she'll be talking about teachers and families working together to foster successful inclusion. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Yunru. Thank you.
Oops. I'm just trying to make my PowerPoint full screen.
Yeah, it looks perfect.
All right. So first, I would like to take this time to thank Brian, AG, and Laura for working on the research conversation series and invite me to present at this event. And also thank you all for taking your time to attend this event and join the conversation with me. And I, to be honest, while preparing, I'm very excited. So hope you can see that. So while preparing for this conversation, to be honest, this remind me probably my presentation 7 years ago with the college. So I'm also a bit nervous, to be honest. I don't know why. It's just like remind me like 7 years ago when I first did my presentation. So hopefully I don't start speaking non-English. And if I do, you know why, because I'm nervous. So let's get started. So today I would like to kind of present probably two, because I was thinking I want to do more, but I think with the time and also allowing for the conversation, because I'm very excited for the conversation part as well. So I would like to first talk about, and also I want to mention that it's like a rare situation that I have flies around my place because we did grill during weekend, so they are trying to bother me right now. So if you see I have like unusual move, that's it, because the flies, it's, yeah, I don't know why they like, probably I have coffee with me. So yeah, so just to mention that at the beginning. So today I would like to present probably two projects that I have been working on. One is like start with why building or establish parent or family teacher partnership is important. How does that influence our families of students with disability, especially for students with autism, given that it's my area of interest. And also the other thing is that, and then to bring out, highlight one of the project I recently working on that probably is my favorite project. So I'll start with the partnerships among teachers and families. So basically, we would need to have two parties work together in order to provide that mutual relationship. So to build the trust, respect, and shared decision making in between these two parties. And in order kind of offer our students with disabilities the best support from both parties, and then also provide the best results. So that's why I would like to start here, because providing effective services for children with disability can kind of help them achieving the equal opportunities, and then eventually kind of result-based outcome for them to live independently, full participation in their education, and hopefully they will become economic self-sufficiency. So this is like a big project, or I would say it's a bigger project. I extract kind of just the part related to family-teacher partnerships for families of children with autism. So first, what I did is that I examined, this is from 200 and I think it's 36 parents view on their family professional, here I should put like teachers, family teachers partnerships, and their perspectives on parental stress and family quality of life. But given that we are talking about partnership, I just emphasize the results that it shows that if we establish the strong family teacher partnerships, that could help our families of children with autism that to improve their family quality of life. So basically, in this study, what parents did that is that they fill out the survey questions in for the 3 scale. So to provide their perspective on their parental stress, family quality of life, and family teacher partnership. As we especially for parents of students with disabilities, we kind of can see like why they have more stress than parents of just typical developing children, and especially for parents of students or children with autism, they are more like they typically show higher level of stress. So that's why like it's important for us to figure out that how we can help these families in order to results the better family quality of life for them as a whole. So for the study, I examined the 2 models. The first one is to show that you can see like a family professional partnership eventually didn't really have a direct effect on parental stress, but it does, you know, it can help parents of children with autism spectrum disorders to improve their family quality of life. And also, that probably could indirectly reduce the stress of parents of children with autism. So from there, I also want to take a more close look of the family teacher partnership from parents' perspective, because a lot of parents in the past, they have indicated like they are not really viewed welcoming, or like they are hostile like by the parent, by the teachers in school. I remember when I did this, when I was doing this study, I even have parents call me, and then I think the parents was just really wanna talk about how his child was treated by the teacher in school. So he kind of talked with me on the phone for a while and then about this, but I was just like, kind of at that time, because it's really new, I was like really new to the research area, and then I was just so surprised that parents would call me and then talk about what their experience about when what their experience with the teachers, how their child was treated in school. So it's just like to provide you an overview of what parental perceptions of their partnership with teachers. So this is from the Beach Center Family Professional Partnership Scale. So they developed a scale. So the Beach Center is located at University of Kansas. And then they go through the process to develop a scale on family professional partnerships. And then in this scale, it has 18 items. And then 9 focus on like not child-focused relationship, and the other 9 focus on family-focused relationships. So you can see there are like kind of to look at the 2 part. Overall, I would say from this, it's quantitative, so we might not really know a lot on like what parents think in behind the scene, but it does tell us like probably parents is about satisfied about their relationship with teachers. However, of course, there is still room to improve, especially the child-focused relationships. So that means that we probably would need that, like probably prepare our teachers to do a better job when they, like when they work with family, and then they also want to have this child-focused relationship in order to build that family professional partnership with the families they work with. And I know like these are particularly for families of students with autism, probably cannot apply to all the families of children with disabilities, but just to give you some of like the introduction of why it is important, especially when we think that it could kind of in some way impact families' quality of life and also their parents, like parents' stress. And that kind of introduce that my kind of the highlight of today, that's my favorite project. It's the one that I think we would need to prepare our teachers to work with students with disabilities. Not only just from the knowledge, because I have some of my colleagues say to me like, attitudes are important, but knowledge are more important. And I think both are really important. So this is a project I did in my class, the special ed 420, 520. And I think, and then probably the project that I have the most fun doing research, because it's like doing in my own class, and then I have seen like how the students changes their attitudes or how they interact with adults with disabilities. And then you might ask, why adults with disabilities? Why not? Like, I know most of our students probably will have practicum, and then they will probably have the opportunities to interact with students with disabilities, which is much more like younger than them. But in this way, when they have a chance to interact with adults with disabilities, this provides them an opportunity to know that individual as a friend. So they are in the equal status. It's not like from top to down, and then they might be more able to open their mind. So I just want to show you like what we did in my class. I know it's considered comparison to the previous project is much smaller, but I really have fun doing this project. And then I just want to show you like, because I not all of you like from special education field, and then I typically show this to my general education students that, or teacher students, that to show them how you can see a big portion, or maybe like it's a huge portion of students with disabilities, although they receive special education services under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. But the settings, the educational environment, you can see like about like 63.5% of them, they are kind of placed inside the regular class 80% or most of the day. And then I usually point out to them like, and then as you see there, it's like 94.9, so it's almost like 95% of them, they all spend some time in the regular classroom. So that's why I think it's important for, especially for general education teachers, they are kind of the first line for all students. So that's why I think it's important to really provide this perspective to them, especially like them, make them feel comfortable to interact with individuals with disabilities, and also hopefully in some way that will help them in the future have higher expectations when they work with students with disabilities. So this is what we did, and then just for you to know, this one was on the WSU News, so I think it should be okay to use the photos, so post them here. So basically, what I did in class is that students in my class, they have 3 to 4 times opportunities, and each time is about 2 hours or longer, depends on like when these adults with disabilities will arrive. So they are from the Arc of Tri-Cities, an organization that advocates for individuals with disabilities, especially the intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities. So they have an adult program, and then they call it VIP program. And typically they kind of get together and then they kind of have fun and then do activities together. So for my class, because this one is a day class, because typically we also have special education endorsement class that is at evening, like most of the endorsement class. But this one is the one that during the day, and at the beginning it's kind of during lunchtime. So we start with like lunch, so people wouldn't really feel awkward when they try to chat with each other. So basically, the Arc of Tri-Cities bring their clients to my class, and then they eat lunch together. So it's kind of structured, in some way semi-structured, so they will eat lunch together and do a social activities after the lunch. So basically, the social activity would be it really depends on, like sometimes they dance, sometimes they kind of make some craft. So this one, they are making the snow flags before like Christmas. And they also did like, sometimes it's do like Christmas tree, those type of things. They play hot potato. So the one here, they are playing hot potato. They do the music, things too. So there are a lot of things they do together, and I kind of like really impressed of my students. So for this project, it's kind of I will consider my teaching in scholarship, because it's like, so this, you will see it's what student working on for their reflection, and I use this as their qualitative questionnaire. And also they fill out 2 scale. One scale is about like social comfort major. So it's like for them to indicate if how comfortable if they are interacting with an individuals with disabilities. So the scale is like, probably cannot really remember exactly the wording, but basically it's like so the wording is kind of like what extent they feel comfortable when they interact. Do they kind of move, just like look at the individual, but like move their eye contact very soon away from the individual, those type of thing, or how if they feel anxious about like interacting with an individuals with disabilities. So that's one scale they also did for quantitative. And the other one is like their opinions or perception toward inclusion. And these are the qualitative part when they do kind of at the end of, after they have 3 to 4 chance. And I said 3 to 4 chance because the first time when I did this activity, we did 3 on WSU Tri-Cities campus. And then we did the last, after the first group did it, I asked them their reflection. And then you can see the last question is like, what's their suggestion for instructor that, to do. So one of the, I think probably not only one, but one of the suggestions is that they would like to see the facility of the Arc of Tri-Cities to know where those individuals, like they usually have the activities together. So that's why like the next year that I have one sessions, like they do the social activities, they go to the Arc of Tri-Cities and then they do activities there. So I'm very impressed of their response. So I just wanna show you some of their reflection, and I feel that's made me feel like this is meaningful, even though it does take a big chunk of the class time. But I think it's in some way that to know, because most of them or many of them, they don't really have a lot of experience with, like, especially adults with disabilities, or know them as friend. And I also myself, I have to be honest that when I was a student teacher, and of course, my target like student population is elementary school. So they are all very cute. But I remember one time we would need to go to a transition. So it's like after the elementary school in Taiwan, it's sixth grade. And then they will need to we will need to work on the transition to middle school, or some of the students with very severe disability, we may um, kind of transit them to the facility that serve more like students with more severe disabilities. And then for those agency, they have like older individuals with disabilities. And at that time, as like a student teacher at that time, I have to say I didn't feel very comfortable to even interact with them. So I kind of like before I did this, I always tell my students that I personally, when I was young, that I didn't really feel, even when I was a student teacher, that I have gone through the training and preparation for teaching students with disabilities. But I be honest, I still not really feel very comfortable at that time that to interact with adults with disabilities. Yeah, when they are young, they are cute, but when they are, I just like, I don't know why. At that time, I was just like, oh, I feel I'm a bit scared to really interact with them. So I did like tell my students, yeah, it's totally fine if you have those, thoughts, or when you first is hesitant to interact with your new friend. I usually call this are like your friends. So a lot of them, to be honest, that they don't really have experience to start with. Some of them might have like a little bit experience with students with disabilities, but still very different. And most of them, they don't really know what to expect and then what to say. And I am very impressed, like for some of the things they observed during the peer lunch club, and then because they did the lunch together. So at the beginning we call it peer lunch club. So I was thinking for some of them that they're kind of like what they observe, it's like true. So they got to see like a big group of individuals with disabilities like have various kind of like various cognitive ability, or various like, because some of them they use wheelchair, and some of them, so they have a very uh, diverse disability in the whole group. And I think they do get more or like more comfortable once they go through this experience. And then they do have the time, because at that time my class typically was not really big when we have this chance to interact with adults with disabilities. So it's about like, I think each class is about 12, 13 at that time, not really huge. So each of them, they do have very, they can really interact with an adult with disabilities, like not just like, like three, my students with one. It's more like I try to organize so they can sit at one table, or like saying like my students and then adults with disabilities, like their friends will be able to sit with one table and then to chat with each other. So they can like exchange thoughts and they can talk about their experience. So I think the purpose for this one is for them to really get to see where these adults with disabilities look like, because I feel people always have many different, like very different imagination about like, okay, how will this kid grow up? How would they look like? And then they probably wouldn't think that, they would know each other, um, or like um, they would even like, some of them they are dating, and then they are just like, oh yeah, it's really like, like they didn't think about that. My student didn't think about that. Oh, they would see like they are dating, and then they are really good friend with each other for their peers, those type of things. And then I'm really happy that my students being honest with me, because I was like looking at what they talk about, when they first think about individuals with disabilities. This is what they wrote. And of course, I did get their permission to share this. This is already published, just recently published in an article, but just to show you, like, I'm really impressed of what they wrote, and then that make me feel very happy about doing this with them. And of course, I personally enjoy it very much because I haven't really get a chance to really interact with like adults with disabilities for a while. It's like, when you are in higher education, and then you don't really, so I do still go to classroom to observe students with disability, like teachers or special education students going to be teachers, and then there are students in the classroom. But it's still very different experience when you have adults with disabilities in interacting with like my students and me as well. So I feel like overall I could say it probably a successful experience, even though it's kind of a smaller project compared to some of the project I do, like not the quality, not like the quantitative that have a lot of participants. But it does like showing me that it's probably worth the classroom time, and then to do this semi structured way for the students to have the experience with adults with disabilities, and then to kind of inform, like, I'm glad to see their change or like their perspective change. And some of them, I remember one of the group, they did go to, they told me like the semester after and say like they went to visit one of their friends' work location in Starbucks in Pasco. So I'm like always happy to see some of them still stay connect after, even this is just like the classroom project. So just to show you, this is like the whole photo of one group. I know we did like another semester too, but this is the one that they got to interview by one of our WSU media journalists. So I know that it will be not a problem to showing this photo to you. Yeah, so this is the project that I certainly enjoy, and then happy that I kind of like can use my class as an opportunity to do research at the same time with this whole group. So I think it's about time, but before I open the conversation, I would like to just use this chance to advertise our conference on learning disabilities. So the Council for Learning Disabilities have a virtual conference, and it was scheduled like every morning from 11 to 1 EST time. So basically it's like our early morning, but not too bad. And then the night session is from 6 to 8 EST. And for members are free, but if you're non-members, I would like invite to join this conference with us. It's like only $25. And then if you later think to join the organization for Council for Learning Disabilities, that you can use that, the 25 could carry over, and then for you to join the organization by the end of November. So.
Great, Yunru. Thank you very much. That's very informative. So now we'll just open it for questions and go from there. If people do want to post something in the chat, just to hold on to your thought while someone else is talking, feel free to do that and I'll monitor that.
Yeah, Brian, I had a quick comment or question maybe. So,
yeah, go for it.
and I've known about Unru's projects like this for a while, and I really appreciate what she's doing to expand, everybody's understanding of asset-based perspectives in education. I do a lot of similar things with linguistically and culturally diverse students too. And so, Unru, I was just wondering if you've had any feedback from the districts. So, I don't know, I get quite a, a number of individual emails or comments just at meetings and stuff from the districts on these types of experiences and how much they appreciate them, because it's hard for them to replicate something like that. So I was just wondering if you'd had any feedback from them.
I don't really have like the feedback from them because like this, I kind of doing it with the Arc of Tri-City. So I don't think they have very deep connection with the school district either.
You know, it would be really neat. I mean, just brainstorming that if you could involve them in the process and maybe arrange, you know, for a meeting at a school, one of the schools where you have, you know, the adult visitors go to the school and your students go to the school, and then, you know, kids from, you know, one of the elementaries, if you have a connection with, you know, a specific school. If not, I could help with that, because I think that'd be super neat for everybody involved, and just show, you know, the districts that there are other ways to integrate, you know, teachers, whether pre-service or practicing, into community-based approaches. So I just appreciate what you're doing. I thought that was fascinating. So thanks.
Yeah, when I first started, I also think about other possibilities, because the Arc of Tri-Cities, they also have like a program that go to school, like kind of as peers too, like, and then go to school to eat lunch with students with disabilities. That's another one. Yeah, but I just think that I was thinking to start this first and then to get to see how it goes with, so it's like I can at least like monitor, because if they go to different schools, it's probably hard for me to see what's going on at once.
Yeah. Well, just one quick comment before, sorry, I'm hogging the time. I just love this stuff. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the Arc of Tri-Cities, it's a great group, but it's very hard to penetrate that group to get in and do these types of collaborations. I mean, I've made a career out of doing these kind of things, and I couldn't even engage with that group to get something going. It was just, it's very hard and very difficult. So I know you had to really persevere to get through it and make those connections. And so that's really admirable in my perspective. So thank you.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment, Eric. Thank you for your comments. That's wonderful too. And I think my experience with building the partnerships with districts and other entities is rewarding, but certainly challenging, especially to build them in a sustainable way where kind of both people see the win-win situation and not just taking one or the other. What this makes me think of both of you talking about your work, is opportunities for funding potentially around building those partnerships, like through IAS partnership grants, especially if ARC and the districts could see working together in certain collaborations like this, where WSU is helping build those. I'd be happy to talk about those or talk about experience with those opportunities if you guys are interested.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Maybe the three of us can get together and talk about working with linguistically and culturally diverse families, and then, you know, with kids who have disabilities or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I see both of those coming together, so that could be a really neat project.
For sure.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think this is really neat stuff, Yun. And I mean, I definitely noticed from teaching, so we have a similar class on the Pullman campus, 470, and that it's amazing how afraid people are of just the concept of disability. And, you know, you spend a lot of time in coursework with the pre-service teachers, really sort of just like normalizing disability. And, you know, it's great, it's cool, you know, and opportunities like this really do create that, and particularly for general education teachers who are going to be working with, like you said in that beginning, 80% of students with disability, or I don't know what it was, a lot of students with disabilities are in the general education classroom 80% of the time or more, really focusing on more inclusion, both within school, but also within the workplace, on campuses. And so I think just creating cultures where people recognize that disability is fine, right? That it's not this thing that you need to be afraid of. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the parallel content within the course that you were working on, and if that at all helped kind of, did you unpack some of this stuff when you were, you know, in discussions in your classes, and did you facilitate, you know, did you have activities within the class that kind of paralleled with the experiences that we're having in the peer mentoring?
Typically we do, it's like, it, I probably could like structure and better like two parallel, but basically we do one is that after they have some ideas. So let me put this way. So for the activity itself, typically I preparing them for kind of the mental preparation, because like I do tell them like it's probably very different from their, if they do have some experience with students with disabilities, but it's probably very different when they interact with an adult with disability. That's why I tell them my story that, you know, even when I was younger, that I was, yeah, even that I got my special education license, I was still saying like I wasn't really comfortable around adults with disabilities. And at that time, I was like 22. Yeah, so, and then basically what we do is like we prepare the, and then talking about some of the things they might encounter, because they are very friendly group, and then they would get students contact, like they would, so I did talk with the director of the Arc of Tri-Cities to ask them that what are something that we need to prepare our students when they interact with them. So basically, mostly it's that they are really extremely friendly, and then some of the students, or they have never like interacted with them, they might think they will be a bit aggressively friendly. So it's like they will get your contact information, or they will ask your first name and last name, and then the next step they will do is like they get their phone and then type your name, and then they will say, oh, I find you on the Facebook, add me as your friend, or something like that. So I did kind of prepare them and say, okay, you know, it's like you are not new, knowing the new friend, so you don't need to be, you know, don't do anything you feel uncomfortable to do. Don't, because like, not because of they have disability that you have to like, oh, be extra nice, because it's the part for them to learn from each other. So because when we first know new friends, we typically would not really give our social or something like that quickly. So those are the things I feel. There are like the content that I'll still teach like for my special education class, or the teaching students with teaching students in inclusive classrooms. It's that for them to know like what are some characteristics of students with disabilities. But typically for interacting with adults with disability, I have to have some of the kind of the mindset or the preparation for their like mentally preparation for them. Like it's usually I wouldn't really have that part even if I don't have this, but later I start feeling that it's probably important for they to think like, okay, you know, like when you are making, if you are like making friends, even just new friends, no matter if they have disability or not, you just like doing what you feel comfortable. So because they are so friendly, so you don't want to, you also don't want to do something that you feel uncomfortable to do just because they have disability. Yeah, and mostly we have one sessions typically that I will have, they have a reading about like um the same different from, I don't remember her whole name. It's like how you interact with individuals with disability. They typically have that reading, and then, or like the respect, how do you respect them, like that reading. And then they would know the characteristics of disabilities, and there are strategies of course they learn, but because this is the group for general education, not saying like I don't expect from a lot from them, but just saying that because it's a 3 credit course. For, if you think how many credits that our special education students that they would take for their endorsement, it's like a 31 credits strict, like, you know, intense in 3 credits. So basically it's really hard to kind of expect them to do or say spend much more time, because some of the students do say to me like, I would like to have more session with them, but I was like, yes, but I would like to, but not that, because I still need to cover like things like strategies like universal design, how do you do like differentiate instruction. But given this is the social activities, that I didn't really expect them to lead too much. It's more just like for them to have fun and making friends, so they can kind of know them in person.
So I guess the follow-up question for me to that is, do you think that having those two things in parallel contributed to the themes that you found in your research questions? Or do you think if you just did one, or like if you just did the peer experience, you might see those same kind of outcomes?
That's a good question, because I don't really have the comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I probably cannot really say, because I have to say it's like we do that in the class. So at the same time, they are learning the knowledge about, like, you know, the history about special education, how the history of the students with disabilities.
Their whole perceptions of special education and disability are changing just as a result of participating in your class.
Yeah, yeah. So I cannot really say I can celebrate, or, you know, like I can separate this experience from their class. Yeah, from their, you know, like class learning. So yeah, probably based on research, I cannot really saying like even with this experience they will change them much. Or another thing I think I forgot to mention is like they did two scale. One is the, as I mentioned, the social comforter scale. They did show they feel less uncomfortable, you know, when they interact with disabilities from the quantitative part. But at the same time, they also don't really show much, but probably because the mean was really high too. Like the one is, let me find that. I just couldn't remember the whole scale's name. It's an opinion about like in the inclusion, and I don't think they are mean, like their scale rating about like the including students with the inclusion change a lot, because like originally they have really high mean to begin with. It's like both are like 4 something. So if you don't mind a bit, I can find it. It is, so if the mean was 4.28, about like their attitudes towards integrating students with disability into general education classroom, and then increased to 4.34. And of course, it's not significant.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, I see we do have a comment in the chat from Jessica. Jessica, do you want me to read that, or do you want to go ahead and say it?
I can speak. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
I've had some issues with my headphones.
No, that's great.
Unru, I loved your presentation. I thought the design was phenomenal. And I just was wondering if you could speak about like the implications of this and how you're thinking about the next research project based on this information. And I mean, something that jumped out to me was, you know, whether the pre-service teachers, you know, once they actually enter the classroom, if there are any differences in orientation, in you know, discernible action that we could then trace back to this experience, and or just working with the ARC of Tri-Cities on a longer term project. I would just love to know, like, based on this fantastic research, where does it go next?
Yeah, so we start with, as I mentioned, that we start with like just 3 sessions with each other, and then now like later we add 1 more sessions to like at the Arc of Tri-Cities. And I'm hoping it's like, of course, like to keep doing this, and I also start doing this with my special education teacher group, because I feel that would probably in some way also help them as well, even though, because I probably should find the research about, there is a study about like actually special education teachers, they probably have lower expectations of students with disabilities. So that's why I think it might also help my special education teacher group, not just like the general education. But I need to figure out another way to kind of like majoring. Of course, they can always like do the same questionnaire or their student reflection, but it's probably a different way when they, because on the scale about integrating students in general education classroom, it's talk about, oh, as a general education teachers, I feel they should be included, like students with disabilities should be included in general education classroom, those type of things. So they don't really have one like talking about the kind of expectation from special education teachers' view. So I think that might be something that I would like to discover more. Yeah, unfortunately we are not able to do it because what I do plan to do is like I will continue doing this every year and then probably eventually start to design some of the things for general education teacher student group to really lead some of activities to do, in addition to just like social activities we do. So to see if that really help them when they teaching. Yeah, because right now it's more like a social structure, like a socially interaction, not like so let's do something that from the general education teachers to do it.
Okay, so Holly had a question as well.
Hi, Yunru. I was just curious about follow-up for next year and or what some of the recommendations from students had when you asked them about kind of what they would suggest for if you continued it.
Yeah, there are a few ones. So for the first group, so I have done this for 2 groups, and originally I want to do this like the 3rd time this year, but I couldn't do because of the COVID. But basically, the first one is that they say they would like to visit the Arc of Tri-Cities. So that's why for the second group, we got a chance to visit the Arc of Tri-Cities. And the other one is that they would like to have more sessions. So they would like to have more than 4 times or 3 times whatever they have. And also like they would like to have or knowing this individual's particular disability. Because some of them they would say, I don't think they have disabilities or something like that. They would like to know really specific. But typically because like, I was want them to just meet them as friends. So I didn't really address, what are the disabilities each of the clients they have, but basically just for them to have those. And then one student also mentioned that they would like to also have chance to interact with the younger population, like, the student, because not all of them, even though like, as I showed that 63.5% of students with disabilities, they are in classroom, like spend 80% or more time in general education classroom, but thinking that students with disabilities, I think it's 14% of the student population. So even though our students do include in the general education classroom, still there will be teachers, they may not really have a chance to interact with the students. So I guess that's why they would like to interact with the younger like a population. Yeah. So those are a couple of their suggestion that I can pull from. I think those are 2. And then and then some of them they do suggest like, we would like to have that music dance activities first because that make us to know them first class. Yeah, because usually they play a bingo at the first, and then later they will have the hot potato and other activities together. But some like they would say, we would like to have this, like this is more fun, and then we get to just like really know each other. And after that, we are just like all open, like they're very chat. Yeah. Yeah, so those are the things that emerge from students' suggestion and recommendation.
Okay, I'll ask a question if that's okay. So, you did show a few what I'll call structural equation models, I believe, which always piques my interest. And in those models, I think I recall you showing a positive relationship between parent-teacher relationships and family quality of life. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's great. It makes complete sense to me. But when I see models like that, I always think about the model-based inferences we're making and then alternative models that might be possible that could fit just as well, right? And so I'm curious your thoughts of if that relationship could go the other way, or if it's bi-directional, where family quality of life does have some influence on how families put effort and time into working to build quality relationships with the schools.
I think you are probably right. That's the part that I didn't really um, evaluate in that study. So I think it could be because the parents, when they as what you say, probably if parents they devote more time, or like when they have higher family quality, they might have more time to devote into like either involve in their child's education, and then develop that relationship with teacher. That's very positive. So I think you are probably right too. It could be like a bi-direction.
I don't know if I'm right, but I'm just curious if that fits equally well, or what those relationships look like, thinking about that going both ways. Because I'm guessing there is some influence. I don't know which one comes first, but yeah. Thank you.
I think that's probably another way to think about it. That could be because I do find the population of that study, I feel their household income is higher than what I expect. Because I
Okay.
remember when I did the study, I think I kind of get the idea from other like a previous study. So when I put in the like household income, and then I put like 70,000 is the highest, because in other study that's the highest they get. But I have probably about half of the family showing that their family, the household income is like over 70,000. So I think in some way that's probably influence, and probably need to like kind of like more explore that as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Kristen. So that relates. I had some questions about that very first study, but I don't know if you want to answer those as well, because I was thinking about, you said that you had 200 plus participants, but I was just wondering how you got those participants, because I think you also made a comment about they may be more willing to talk about negative things that are happening at the schools than the positive things. So if you want to address that. But then really I was thinking, in the first study, are there things from there that you have thought about including in your courses? Like even those findings, even like presenting those findings to your pre-service teachers, so that they get a sense that, you know what, families don't always feel supported. Families don't always feel like you have a child-focused perspective. So I think just raising their awareness, or other ideas you have for incorporating that.
The idea to present the results to my student. We talk about it generally to kind of establish the positive relationship with family, and then probably some of the how-to, but I never think to just like present to that. Probably I should, but mostly you kind of talk about generally like what are some strategies that we can use. And to answer your question about how we how the parents were recruited, it's at that time I kind of sent through. One is at the autism center at a university. So it's like it's through their listserv. And then there are two organizations, they provide services to individuals, just like it's similar to the ARC of Tri-Cities, but their target group is students and individuals with disabilities. So they have their own listserv. So there, it could be like, the parents, they probably have more resource to know that there are those support exist for them to provide service to them. So that's probably why, like, they tend to have a higher income level compared to what I originally thought they have. Yeah. So it's go through a couple like organizations that serve students with disability, serve like parents and individuals with autism. So for parents, for them to be able to find those services, or using those services, it might be very different from those families who don't really know those support exist, or not have even internet, because the survey was sent by their listserv. Yeah. So those are the things that we will need to consider like for the study.
Well, great. Thank you. We're just about out of time. We have about a minute and a half left or so. Yunru, thank you so much for sharing your work with us. Super informative. Obviously critical work in the schools, and it's great to hear what you're doing and what you're up to. So I really appreciate you taking the time to prepare this and talk with us about your work. So I'll give you a big clap. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining me today. And then thank you so much for your feedback and comments.
Oh, certainly. And then we'll look forward to our next research conversation that will be announced. You'll get reminders about that soon. And our speaker's actually here. Shikha Prashad is here. So we'll see her next time and learn about her work. So thank you everyone for joining. I really appreciate it. If you have feedback, please let me know. And otherwise, have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.